Yeah.
All right. So in the next one, we're going to go to it was the second fight on the main card. It was former champion Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian. Now, I don't know how you felt about this one because I can't. At this point, I was quite drunk. Looking at the aftermath, a lot of people seem to feel like this was a contentious one. There's a lot of talk about the third round being the one that was debatable, I would say, because I remember it being 1-1 very clearly going into that round. It felt clear to me.
Yeah.
But, in that third round, I thought Arman dominated the majority of the round. And I know he spent the last 40 seconds or whatever fighting off a gilly, but I felt like he'd done enough to win that round that the Charles needed to finish him at that point and didn't. So I thought Arman won the fight, but it was close. It was a close fight. You definitely couldn't call it a robbery, and you definitely couldn't call it a wrong decision. I think, and obviously we've heard that, or if we believe what came out, that Arman was offered the title fight in June and turned it down. So obviously Poirier has now been confirmed.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what would you do for both gentlemen?
Oh man, this one was tough, and I thought that Arman clearly won that fight. Even though Charles had him in some tough situations at the end of those rounds, but those submission attempts did not erase the dominance of top pressure for the majority of the round. So, unfortunately, and I wanted to give it to Charles, man. I wanted to.
I know you did.
But whatever. Arman won that fight. I think that Arman's is easy. Arman should fight the winner of the Poirier-Makhachev fight. He should allow that to happen, fight the winner. He was offered it first, which I think is kind of shady a little bit. You ask a man right after you fought, hey, you want to fight again in June? Like, bruh,
Yeah, especially
it's
after a
April.
tough fight like that.
Like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to fight again in June.
It's placing all the dominoes in the champion's favor, isn't it?
It is, very much so. Very much so. So I don't think that was necessarily fair, but I think that Arman should be in line to fight the winner of Makhachev and Poirier. Most people would assume that would be Makhachev. So for Charles Oliveira, this one was a little bit more difficult because if you look down the ranking, he's beaten Justin Gaethje. He's obviously Poirier's matched up. He just fought Tsarukian. And if you go down further, he's beat Chandler. He's beat Dariush. Like, who's left? And the only person that's left is Gamrot. That's the only person that's left. And I think that would be a very interesting fight for both of them. Very opportunistic fight for Gamrot. Gamrot kind of, I feel like he continues to get the, just a little bit of Bilal treatment, just a little bit. He's not on the streak that Bilal is, but he's not, very entertaining. He's not, super marketable. But at the same time, they did have him weigh in as a backup. So if something would have gone wrong, he would have been in a title fight. So I think that Charles against Gamrot would be Charles's opportunity to stay in that space, to prove that he's still, in that top 3 range, and also give Gamrot the opportunity to make a statement. So yeah, I think that's the way I go.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout at all. I will say that Tsarukian is getting a lot of criticism for turning the fight down, but I understand perfectly well why he did.
Yeah, I would have.
I would have. I think if you're fighting somebody of Makhachev's caliber, You don't want it to be that's already a mountain to climb. So being given 7-8 weeks, I think it's 7 weeks, to fight a guy
Yeah.
that's problematic and has probably been in full recovery, been doing a camp for a while, is a lot to ask. And I do think that maybe not taking it might be a mistake. And I want to look at the other side of this as well, because in his mind, he's probably got the same attitude that you've got. You know, he probably thinks like he can wait it out and slot right in after Poirier. But my issue is that Makhachev is an asshole. And what he's going to do is, after he beats Poirier, and we've spoken about this before, we might not see him for another 6 months. Which means, does Arman wait around until December? Other people are going to be fighting in the meantime. And it's like, well, we know what this game is like. If you don't stay active and other people do, you can end up getting passed up. And then it happened to Charles Oliveira. It happened to Gaethje.
Happened to Justin. Just happened to him. I don't think Justin gets another title shot.
Yeah. He has won 4 straight. And what did I say before the event started? I said that if Makhachev fights Poirier and we don't get him for another 6 months, what we need is for Max and Tsarukyan to win, because that becomes a clear eliminator.
You said that.
If you match those two up, the winner undoubtedly would get a title shot. Unfortunately, when I said that, I didn't realize that Max was going to flatline Justin Gaethje and steal the entire shot.
Yeah.
So, like, the thing is here, the problem that Tsarukyan's got is that Max can pretty much do whatever he wants now. Like, he's the one who emerged as the man he's the one that everyone's talking about after UFC 300. Obviously, Alex is getting love as well, but it's Max that's getting all the plaudits. Max, you feel like Max walked out with the most options, and you called it exactly that. Yeah, I think he's got those basically, because of where he is in the rankings. He's essentially got 2 options. He either waits it out for Makhachev and hopes that the chips fall in his favor, or he seeks out the fight see if he can goad Max into doing a fight in the meantime and making himself undeniable. Because if he waits around and say Max gets another win, or Gamrot gets another win in the meantime, suddenly then you're like, he's not guaranteed to get a shot. And that's where his issue is. So if I was him, I'd probably I'd be having conversations, and if they can get Makhachev turned around quickly after that fight, you wait. If not, you go for Max. And as for DuBronx, Gamrot was somebody that I considered. But I think there's only one fight to do to keep himself around and relevant. He's lost 2 and 3, so he's nowhere near a title shot. If I was him, I'd probably do Justin Gaethje again and give Justin Gaethje the rematch, because I think as a matchup with the star power that they've both got, the issue with giving him Gamrot is exactly what you said. Nobody gives a fuck about Gamrot.
Yeah.
And I don't think Charles is getting back to a title now, and I don't think he necessarily wants to. I think what Charles wants now is he wants money and he wants big fights. And you put him in against Gaethje, they're both coming off a loss. Even though, both their stocks have dropped a little bit after both losing, if that fight gets announced again, nobody's going to complain. They're going to watch it. They're going to be invested in it. I mean, and it's a fight you can win, because you destroyed Gaethje the last time. I'm not really a big fan of doing rematch. Made it look easy. I think what you've said about Gamrot makes perfect sense. It's the only guy in the top 8 he hasn't beaten yet. And there are favorable ways you could say. I think he's a better striker. He does have the Gamrot is somebody who will try to take you down, and again, that moves into your wheelhouse. I can see merits to taking that fight. I can. But I don't think Charles is thinking about a path back to the belt. I don't care what anyone says. As long as Makhachev has the belt, I think Makhachev demoralized him in that fight. I think he prepared as best as he could for him, went in there, and got annihilated pretty much. I thought he was dominated. He didn't look like he had there was nothing he could have done in that fight. He got completely destroyed. So I don't think he's looking at himself and thinking, I can make that leap to close the gap, because the gap was so wide, and also Makhachev's young.
Pretty big.
It was huge. It was, and I'm not shitting on Charles because he's pretty much beat everybody else convincingly. It's just one of those things where you're facing a guy now that you're just not on the same level, and that's just me being real with Charles's chances there. So I think he's thinking, get money, get fun fights, get more wins, secure and Gaethje is a fight you can do that with. So I'd probably look to do the rematch fight with Gaethje in the meantime. And then what you could probably do is, if he beats Gaethje and you get a McGregor win against Chandler, or even a McGregor loss against Chandler, with the name that Charles Oliveira's got, you could then lure McGregor into a fight after that. I think I could see that being 2 nice fights in a row for Oliveira.
I could definitely see the counter fight. I could definitely see that, because he really wants that fight.
And he's a huge name. He's a huge name. And I think McGregor would see that as a path to getting back to, especially if he lost. If he lost, it would be a risk worth taking, because your career's already in the mud. You might as well fight somebody who's going to bring in pay-per-views. And Oliveira would do that, because he gets a cut of every one. So